people that live here in Klamath Falls don't think too highly of Klamath Falls, and yet we have people coming from all areas of the country that say, oh my goodness, this is a fabulous place, which I agree.
Reporters from the Catalyst Journalism Project are on the streets of Klamath Falls surveying to understand how information spreads throughout the community.
We're all journalists, and I'm a journalism professor. So we're here in Klamath Falls, we're downtown. This is Main Street here in Klamath Falls, and we've been spreading this survey. So we're asking people about community information needs. Where do they get information? What information needs do they have? Where do they get those served and met? And the idea is trying to develop a grassroots understanding of what those information needs are and how can we find creative ways to serve them. So, we hear a lot about, the challenges that local media is facing in terms economically and beyond, but there's also a real challenge in terms of just like, how do they serve people's information needs? And so if we can get a really good understanding of what those information needs are, hopefully that'll lead us to some strategies that news organizations can then use to bridge that gap.
The thing we do best is that we've just been here for so long that people know to call us. There's a lot more stories than we could get to, but we're, I think, at least as a newsroom, we're always looking to do the most important story that day, right? There's a lot of things we can do, and that's hard because you miss some of those lighter community stories that people love to read, but we know if we don't do this one big thing, we're going to get the most complaints about that, the most calls. So we're not litigating the same old things. So we know where people's views are and what their side is and what their opinion is, but we're trying to get past that into different pieces of this discussion that actually move it forwards.
Bridging the information gap comes with challenges, but we found a resident here who deeply cares about getting the word around.
So I don't know, I think it's fun. We are in an instantaneous world now where unless it's very short, unless there's a picture, unless it's very quick, they're not going to pay any attention. So to get the word out, we find that our local newspaper is not a good source of doing that, not because of the paper, but because people do not subscribe to the paper.
Right.
So that's when we came up with our newsletters. And so I put out information of things that they need to know about just different rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Also events that are occurring and fun facts about Klamath Falls. That's our meeting.
The town's museum holds the most trusted history, but community outreach is still a challenge.
Museums traditionally have been one of the most trusted sources of information in the country, even more so than traditional mainstream media. If a museum says it, then you can probably trust it. We certainly don't want to lose that reputation. That's extremely valuable to us. We moved into a time when people will say, well, how do we know about your events? And I'll say, well, do you take the paper? And a lot of people say, no, we quit the paper. And Facebook is our number 2 way. We still put information out to the broadcast media, but it's such a scattered media that it's hard to reach a lot of people. But we honestly find we can reach a lot more people through social media.
Social media is an efficient way to stay connected, but there are some concerns.
For the specifics of Klamath Falls and kind of how the information flows in these communities, Facebook is like the move right now. Facebook groups and the way that people are finding different avenues to communicate, not only efficiently, but with really incredible timelines on that. Was pretty incredible. We had a lot of people reference specifically, like, I can look out my window and see some sirens going down the street and hop on Nextdoor, or my Facebook groups and know almost immediately what's going on from people in the community who are sourcing that information. So that was really interesting just to kind of see like concrete proof of how social media is completely changing the landscape of communication. And then beyond that, really in sync with what we're talking about, people are concerned about how they are going to get their information. If something were to happen in the world on a larger scale, are these information flows and communication lines that we have now going to continue functioning? And if not, how can we be prepared for something like that so we can stay in touch and be up to date on things?